how I would book Drew McIntyre from now until WrestleMania 38. A little bit of a fancy booking video for you here today on SCW. Please like, share, subscribe and comment your thoughts of this video in the comments section once you've seen it through its entirety. But before we get to where we're going forward to, we have to establish where we are and where we've been previously, because Drew McIntyre has been arguably, well, there's no argument in it, he's been one of the best book stars during the pandemic era. In fact, he actually won the Royal Rumble in 2020, of course one of the largest attendance audiences before the pandemic struck. Of course, Drew McIntyre eliminating Brock Lesnar, of course, when Brock had been through every single superstar up to that point, and then going on, then Drew winning the entire match. Everybody, a star was born that night. Everyone was elated that Drew McIntyre was in this position. He would go on to WrestleMania in the first pandemic pay-per-view, of course, WrestleMania 36, in front of an empty arena, in fact the Performance Center, to defeat Brock Lesnar in 5 minutes to win the WWE Championship. And since that point, for the next 10.5 months, he was WWE Champion for the entire time, minus 3 weeks. He lost the championship to Randy Orton at Hell in a Cell last year and won it back just before Survivor Series. And of course, it went to the Elimination Chamber. He then lost the championship, of course, after retaining it in the Elimination Chamber match. Of course, The Miz actually cashed in, and then Bobby Lashley would go on to win the championship from The Miz. Of course, Bobby Lashley was the one that attacked Drew McIntyre so that The Miz could cash in the first place, and then of course we led on to where we go now into our story. So of course WrestleMania 37 happened. Everybody, including their nan, thought that Drew McIntyre was going to win the championship in front of fans. That didn't work out. In fact, as well, the show was delayed for 40 minutes, if you remember as well, due to the bad weather during WrestleMania as well, which is something unprecedented. From that point onwards, we then go to WrestleMania Backlash. Drew McIntyre hasn't won the championship once again in a triple threat match when he lost again to the champion, which was Bobby Lashley, and of course now no longer with WWE, Braun Strowman. So at the time of recording, we are on the 7th of June. We are going towards Hell in a Cell. Drew McIntyre is going in a one-on-one match against Bobby Lashley, and most fans at this point are bored of Drew McIntyre being in the championship picture, because either he's been champion or he's been in championship matches. He has not kept away now since WrestleMania last year, and you could even argue since the Royal Rumble, when you knew he was going to be the main event of that WrestleMania. So we are nearly 18 months later. It is time for a break. So what do we do with Drew McIntyre from now until the next WrestleMania? Well, simply, we're at Hell in a Cell. Let's say it could become a Hell in a Cell match for all we know. We know a contract signing is tonight on Raw. So, of course, you have to take that into account if you're watching this after the 7th of June's Raw. Drew McIntyre, for me, has to lose this match. He cannot win it because I think fans are bored of Drew being champion in the championship picture. And I think if Drew McIntyre wins here, fans will turn on him. And I think, in my opinion, if Drew is to win the championship, it would make sense if it was in front of fans, because that was the whole point of him winning it the first time and not having that moment. The next time for me should be in front of a fan base, although I wouldn't be surprised if they want to do Drew versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam this year, but I hope that's not the direction they'll go down. It's certainly not the direction I'm going down. This pay-per-view, Bobby Lashley retains. Drew McIntyre is finally out of the WWE Championship picture, and I hope on the build to it as well, there was actually made a point of WrestleMania 37. I was supposed to win it in front of fans. It was my moment after that year before, and I didn't get the job done. I was not part of the decision when it came to WrestleMania Backlash, and here I'm going to get my moment, and he just falls short. There's something about McIntyre, he can't get over the line to get back that championship that was rightfully his after losing it this last time at the Elimination Chamber. Of course, then we go then towards Money in the Bank, and what I'm going to do, well, what's the quick fix? If you're no longer in the championship picture and you want to get back in it, of course, Money in the Bank makes sense, doesn't it? So I would put McIntyre in this match. I mean, arguably, it gives star power and value to the match. You turn around and say, well, that's the established star, and if someone else was to beat him for it and get the Money in the Bank, we're hopefully on the way of building a new star. So that would be a good way of doing it. And for me personally, there's one or two methods you could do it. You could either do simply that someone just wins that Money in the Bank briefcase and Drew doesn't get his moment and again falls short, falls perfectly in line with the storyline. But I want to build a match for SummerSlam at the same time, and I want to take Drew out of it. He's not winning Money in the Bank for me, so don't panic there if you're watching right now. I'm going to have Jinder Mahal come and actually cost Drew McIntyre this month, because Jinder Mahal is back from injury. We know these two have wanted to face off for the longest time, and I'll set that match for SummerSlam. I think that's the perfect place to get this, because first off, it's a match both of these guys want, with the history of 3MB being very, very good friends. As well as that, well, Jinder's been back for a while, and where's his opportunities? Where is his chance to be on Raw, to be on pay-per-views? He's a former WWE champion. He could take a bit of an issue that Drew McIntyre, a former partner of his, a former friend as well, who has not checked on him while he's been out, let's play it in storyline terms here, is getting all these chances, all these opportunities. His time's been and come. Let someone else have a go. The Maharaja wants to get back in the championship program. So that's my build for this for SummerSlam. Looking at this though, this will be a one and done, because as we look through the last few previous pay-per-views, we can't have Drew McIntyre completely fall from top of grace. We still have a top star on our hands, and if he loses too many matches, especially one now to Jinder Mahal who's just come back, that could be damaging long term for Drew McIntyre. So for this, Drew McIntyre would have to pick up the victory. The question is, at this point, I would have personally a draft before SummerSlam, therefore I would put both of them on SmackDown, or I would do it after SummerSlam, and as you can see on the screen right now, Drew McIntyre has been drafted to SmackDown because he's done what he can on Raw. We've had so many matches with Bobby Lashley. He's faced Randy Orton numerous times. There's no one really left for Drew to face on the Raw side apart from The Fiend, but The Fiend isn't on TV at the time of recording, so I think it would be good for Drew to have a fresh start, a fresh show, and to go over to SmackDown. And to start off there, to greet him when he arrives, is none other than he was the Messiah. He's now wanting you to embrace the vision. He's certainly blinding you with those suits. It's none other than Seth Rollins. And we can take time. We don't even need to have this match at Clash of Champions. Let's have a nice build with these two. Let's move it to Extreme Rules, the horror show. And no, don't worry, we're not going for eye for an eye in the stipulation. Oh no, that was one and done. Let's leave that where it belongs in 2020. But there's a good narrative storyline here with Seth here, and why he would be a perfect long-term opponent for Drew McIntyre, because fans are starting to turn on Drew a little bit, and of course Seth Rollins went through the same thing himself. The fans turned on him. He felt he needed to change himself. He turned and did things for himself, and that's why he became the Messiah to begin with. So Seth Rollins can turn around and say, look, you know, these people, they're not good for you. You should do things the way I do. And in theory, perhaps Seth could look and say, this could be a two-man power trip. You could be on my side. You could be following my lead. Embrace the vision. It would make perfect sense as a storyline. And going then into that pay-per-view, maybe Seth finds a way to pick up a victory on pay-per-view to actually defeat Drew McIntyre, leaving further debate at this point. Should Drew McIntyre, he's gone for a fresh start on SmackDown. He's going to hopefully go back to being at the top of the card once again. He's lost to Seth Rollins on the first pay-per-view at the first real hurdle, if the draft, of course, is taking place after SummerSlam, like it has the last couple of years. So that would make perfect sense in that way. And of course, then you build in towards the Survivor Series. And of course, these two different ideologies, like I said there now. Drew McIntyre still is left with a question mark. Should he do things the Seth way? He refuses to. He wants to be that top good guy. You know, that squeaky clean babyface that we're used to. Because WWE, they need one of them here and there. They can't just have everybody turning heel. It wouldn't make sense. But the beautiful part of this is we can put both Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins on the SmackDown Survivor Series team. The classic 5-on-5. The two ideologies. Who is the team captain going in? I think that would be a really fun twist of a storyline, because we've seen people play themselves as the captain, but you've got legit here two people that could run the top of the card, could run the show on SmackDown with two different ideologies. Of course, Roman is off doing his stuff in the championship picture still. He's still the Universal Champion. Of course, no one can actually dethrone the head of the table at this point. And of course, as we go on with that Survivor Series traditional match, the two people that come out the other side of it as victorious, the sole survivors, are Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins, which means this feud isn't finished. And with Seth being upset, the idea that Drew McIntyre still has to, do things arguably what is, not the right way in his eyes, but genuinely the babyface right way, Seth Rollins attacks Drew McIntyre with a steel chair after the match, brutally attacking him at Survivor Series. You've got your cliffhanger going on to the next SmackDown, and as you build then towards the TLC pay-per-view, you can get your tables involved, you can get your ladders involved. We have got the TLC match here between Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins, which of course, This is the blow-off of this feud. It's the third pay-per-view in a row. These two have been going backwards and forwards. We need a conclusive finish, but what I think has been a very well, hopefully a very well told story. You'll let me know in the comments below. But Drew McIntyre comes out the victor because we need to start getting Drew ready for WrestleMania 38. So of course from that point onwards there, and what I like about that idea of a story as well is I'm not sure Seth Rollins right now it's working totally with his current heel gimmick. So for me this could be the ideology that can actually convince Seth Rollins that actually he is doing things the wrong way, and it could actually play into his babyface turn somewhere further down the line, because I'd like to see Seth go back as a babyface at some point in 2021. But this is not Seth's story, this is Drew's story, and we move on to the Royal Rumble. And why not go back to where it started for him, where it all began, the Royal Rumble 2020. Well, now we're in 2022. Can Drew McIntyre do it again? Of course, that would be the basically easy storyline to do, because people that won 2 Royal Rumbles, they are legit main eventers. They have established themselves amongst the elite in WWE, but I'm not going to do that because I need to start another feud off. We've got to do something between now and WrestleMania. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Drew McIntyre in the final 3 or 4 competitors, eliminating Edge from the Royal Rumble. Edge, of course, very unhappy with the scenario he's gone through in the last sort of few months. As you can see, very upset with the Daniel Bryan stuff at last year's WrestleMania, having that moment taken away from him. His chance to main event at WrestleMania again for this year in a row. He actually then attacks Drew McIntyre and actually gets Drew McIntyre eliminated from the Royal Rumble. And so just make sure that things are kept clean for WrestleMania. On the SmackDown side, a Raw superstar wins the Royal Rumble, or if it happens to be a SmackDown star, they're going after the Raw Championship. We've got SmackDown completely clear because we need to go through the Elimination Chamber. That's right, because we're going to have both Drew McIntyre and Edge in that chamber match, and they will come down to the final 2 competitors, and you can guess it's for the #1 contendership for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania 38. And of course Drew McIntyre does prevail in this. We know we're going to get Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns, but before we do, Edge, it's this year that Edge won't let it go. Daniel Bryan wouldn't let it go last year, so Edge isn't letting it go this year. He's going to drag things over for one more match at FastLane. Is it going to be the Claymore or is it going to be the Spear? Who's going to come out on top? Drew McIntyre putting that #1 contendership on the line one more time, and yes, Drew McIntyre does prevail, does defeat Edge, and when we get our match at WrestleMania 38 in Texas, a jam-packed filled stadium in front of fans, and Drew McIntyre, keeping it short and sweet, is the one that dethrones the Tribal Chief, does win the championship in front of fans, because with that long journey, I think fans will get back on his side, because he would have been out of the championship for a long time. He would have found the quick fix to try and get back into the championship picture, realised it's not worked, had to go back to his past to eliminate the past in Jinder Mahal. He's had to go through different ideologies with Seth Rollins. He's gone through desperation, obviously trying to get through the Royal Rumble once again, where it all began, that sort of beginning of the story, the full circleness before that desperation of Edge kicking in, and then he finally gets that, arguably that dream match we've had there, because we had that Survivor Series last year, was a fantastic match between Drew and Roman, and I like the dynamic of Drew as the face, Roman as the heel, and to have that match, it feels like a WrestleMania worthy match. So those two would be the show of shows, and then Drew winning that championship in front of fans, I think would feel like the right time for Roman to drop that belt. But what happens after that would be anybody's guess, but that would be the way I would fantasy book it. But I'd like to know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you like this fantasy booking idea? Do you think this would actually be a good, suitable journey for Drew McIntyre from now until WrestleMania 38? Let me know how you would book it in the comments below. Maybe you do something different. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions and your fantasy booking ideas. If it's the first time you're checking out the channel, then please subscribe to the channel. It'd mean a hell of a lot. Please like and share it as well. And like I say, always comments. They help the algorithm. It helps everything. Helps SCW grow. So I'm really appreciative of everyone that does that. And of course, make sure to check out the latest Q&A as well. That is available on the channel for you right now. And I will be back later this week with NXT TakeOver in your house predictions, as well as Impact Wrestling's Against All Odds predictions as well. And of course, a live Q&A will be coming on Thursday evening this week instead of Wednesday. So keep an eye out for that also. But that's all from me. Thank you for watching. All the best. Have yourselves a great day. How do you book Drew McIntyre between now and WrestleMania 38? Let me know in the comments below. Take care. I'll see you next time.